Welcome to Thoughts Roundup. Happy to be back with you, and I would like to talk a little bit about something that I entered into a message the other day at Brookhaven, Mississippi, and I'd like to just take a little segment of that, and I want to talk to you about lost. The word lost. You know, lost is a horrible thing. Just take, for instance, there's been times that we lost our car keys, and we just thought we'd find them, and then we couldn't find them, and then we got so exasperated, and we couldn't move the car because the keys, and we had to have them, but yet we couldn't find them. Just needing them and having to have them is still don't answer the question. It's lost, and if it's right by you and it's lost, well, so you got the story because you've all been there. I had a young man that was in my church many years ago. He became a preacher. His name was Mike Tuminello. Mike lived in Memphis, and he had some money. He had about $2,000. He was making a move from Memphis to Mesquite, Texas, and he had that $2,000, and it was cash. And so when he got home, he could not find his money. He could not find that money. Well, you know how frightening that would be. And if I remember right, he had borrowed the money to move on. Well, he thought and worked and tried to find it and couldn't find it. Finally, he decided to, in his mind, backtrack and try to realize the last time he had the money. Well, 25 miles before he got to Dallas, to Mesquite, he'd stopped to get gas. And that was the last time he'd remember seeing the money. So he thought, what if I put that up on the gas pump? I believe I might have done that. So he got in his car and drove quickly back up there with his heart in his throat. He drove in, and when he got there, he put his hand up on top of the gas pump, and there the $2,000 was in the envelope. No one had seen it. And, lost. Oh, my grandfather was a man that could go in the woods day or night and come back out. He had no problem with it. But then his memory started failing him, and he would get lost, and maybe it'd take him, even in the daytime, it would take him a couple of extra hours to get out of the woods when he'd go down fishing. Well, one afternoon he didn't come home, and that night he was still not home, and we all gathered around, and I remember there were several men that were sitting on the edge of the front porch and discussing how they were going to try to find my grandfather. Well, I remember when my brother had a horse, and he got on the horse, and he got an old blowing horn, old cow horn, and started blowing that horn, and it sounded so lonely. And after a while, you could hear it. You could just barely hear it, and then you couldn't hear it anymore. He'd gone deep into the swamp. I remember my dad getting up off the side of the porch. Of course, he'd been pacing most of the time. And I remember when he slipped off the edge into the blackness, into the dark. I remember him hollering, "Papa! Papa! Papa!" And then I couldn't hear him anymore. And, well, to make the long story short, about 3 o'clock in the morning, they fished him out of the woods. And we were all so glad to see Grandpa. Grandpa was my buddy. He's the one that told me stories. He'd sit with his foot on the hearth with a coffee, an old skillet with water bubbling. It was boiling, and he'd put the coffee in there. And then after the ground settled, he'd pour it off and sit there and drink it and tell me stories. And my storyteller had been lost, and I was so happy. I was up. I was a little boy, but I was up at 3 o'clock, just like everyone else, when they brought Grandpa. That was one of the longest times that I've ever spent. Well, what did the Bible say? The Bible said in Luke, said there was a lady that had lost a coin. And of course that coin was not just a coin. The Lord was talking about souls. You see, back in those days, a lady was given a headband when she married, and there was 10 coins in the headband. And if she was unfaithful, one of the coins was taken out, and she would have to suffer the embarrassment of going around with one coin missing from her headband. She had to find that coin before her husband came in. Don't you know she was desperate? Don't you know that there was no piece of furniture too heavy to move? Don't you know that she didn't have time to talk with the neighbors? She didn't have time to do anything. She had to get that headband before her husband come in. Then somewhere along the line, after lighting a candle and holding it high, and after taking a broom and sweeping in the dirt, you know, we lose our coin in the dirt. It's where people lose. But, you know, we have to have everything right before the bridegroom comes back. And she found it. She found it. And oh, that makes you feel, that makes such a wonderful story because it ends so great. Well, we could go on with this. But I'm going to tell you, if we have lost part of what we were given, we better hurry and find it and get it back in our headbands before the bridegroom comes. God bless you.